Good evening, Madam Speaker.
Good evening, Representative.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for your leadership, and I know this is very important legislation for you, how hard you have worked on this, and all of us in the chamber, both sides of the aisle, are very appreciative of all that you have done in this curse that unfortunately has impacted not only your town, our state, and our nation as well. So we're very appreciative of that, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative, for those words. Please proceed.
And also to the members on my side of the aisle, Representative Case, Representative Oler, that I know has spent countless hours in working on this piece of legislation and moving it forward. Through you, Madam Speaker, to the distinguished chairman of the Public Health Committee, with whom I've had the good fortune and the privilege to work with for many years, a few questions on this amendment. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Please proceed.
Through you, Madam Speaker, how do you define a supportive environment, Madam Speaker, on lines 7 and 8? What is a supportive environment? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the good representative for that question. I'll answer it in two ways. I think there's the expectation of a supportive environment that this will be a nurturing place where people can expect to be accepted and encouraged to maintain their sobriety. I will add that under the NAR various rules, that there are any number of things that are reflective and consistent with the concept of a supportive environment. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, when I think of a place as a supportive environment, treatment automatically becomes a part of the supportive environment. Treatment is not, it doesn't begin and end with treatment, I get that. But supportive environment to you, me, means treatment is included as well. And that's where I see the paradox here, that we are on the one hand having a supportive environment, but no treatment services are being provided. Through you, Madam Speaker, if the good chairman could explain the difference between a supportive environment, which does not include any treatment services. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really do appreciate the question of the good representative because, first of all, we recognize it's a challenge for people who might have expectations that treatment is available. But I would submit that we have any number of instances here in the state of Connecticut where we ask lay people to be supportive and encouraging. You think of all the mental health services, but particularly addiction services, where we do not expect professionals necessarily to be available, but that we indeed can create a supportive environment by lay people who have may gone through the same experience, who have some insight into human frailty or some of the causes of addiction, and that a supportive environment can indeed be created without necessarily having medical professionals providing that treatment. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, a lot has been discussed on line 20, and I have some concerns with that line as well. Through you, Madam Speaker, 2 doses, as it says in line 20, of opioid antagonists. Is it per individual that enters the sober home knowing that they have an opioid-related concern? Or is it in its totality that this sober home has to only provide 2 antagonists regardless of the number of individuals they have there? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Indeed, it is a requirement to maintain 2 doses regardless of the number of people who might be susceptible to needing Narcan. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
And through you, Madam Speaker, I know this has been brought up, but it's a very important issue. If any of those 2 doses, if any one or both have been used, what is the mechanism by which the operator of the sober home is made aware that those opioid antagonists have been used and they need to be replenished? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would suggest that the operator of a quality sober home would know very quickly that an antagonist had been used to revive an individual, and therefore there would be relatively short lag time between the incident itself, such notification, and ideally replenishment. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm well aware of a perfect world where there's a very short lag time and the operator is aware that the antagonist has been used. But my concern is if the antagonist is used, the operator is not aware of that, is there any liability because we require that they be two available at any given time? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the good representative raises a good question. I use the phrase ideally on more than one occasion because we're hoping that we're going to establish an environment whereby this is second nature because they choose to maintain a facility of that quality. I'm reliant to a large degree on the NAR standards, which are significant and numerous, such that the operator really would be required to stay on top of things if they're going to maintain their certification. So given the experience of those who have been certified by NAR in other states, I think it's reasonable to expect that the operator will stay involved and engaged and will adhere to the best principles of maintaining that supply for their interests of being in the sober home business in the first place, which is to help people with their lives. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Through you, Madam Speaker, lines 22 and 23. I just need some clarification. So a training has to be provided to all the residents when at least one resident has been diagnosed with a disorder. So when a new resident comes in, diagnosed with a disorder, would this training have to be done again, or a one-time training of a resident is adequate? And how long is it adequate for? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Through you, Madam Speaker. It's a good question. We do not explicitly stipulate the frequency of training, but that they are trained. The good news is that thanks to advances, the administration of Narcan is pretty straightforward. The training is fairly simple as well. So there's the expectation that can happen forthwith with a new person so that no matter who is on the premises when somebody overdoses, they can be in a position to provide Narcan. But we are not specific as to the frequency of training or the like, as much as the fact that they are trained. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
And through you, Madam Speaker, my final question is line 53 talks about a signature with a prospective resident. Through you, Madam Speaker, what is the signature that this resident needs to sign before he or she goes into a sober home? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I should be clear. This is not a requirement for entry into a sober home. Ideally, the form will provide information which makes explicit the expectations for that individual being in the sober home. Their signature would be an indication that they agree and understand that they have been so notified. But we do not require the signature. The process of being presented the document for them to read and then ostensibly to sign is the important aspect here, is that they are fully notified of those expectations. So whether or not they sign, the assumption is because of that interaction, that engagement, they will be made fully aware of what's required. Through you.
Representative Srinivasan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the good chair for his answers. And it is also important for all of us in the chamber to realize and know the good news that the latest medical reports in our state and across the nation have consistently shown that the prescription opioids have reduced significantly. Their reduction is as high as 22% that we have been following over the years, which is a great, wonderful, not just the first step, beyond the first step. And we here in Connecticut, in this body, have initiated the initial steps in terms of the days for which a drug is prescribed and of course the monitoring as well, which has gone a long way in heading in the right direction of a reduction in the prescriptions of the opioids. So with the reduction of the opioids on the one hand, I hope that these episodes that we see and the incidents of deaths that we hear about in near and dear ones will also hopefully dramatically reduce. Thank you, Madam Speaker.